Building adjustment should do it Sundays.
Thank you.
Oh, there's a resounding yes.
I think there might be an extra.
I do.
One of
Tell me when you're rolling.
Oh, here.
Good.
Here. I think it's extra.
I'm calling this meeting to order. This is a city council meeting, the first one in February. We are right at 6:30, straight down. So if we could all raise to do the Pledge of Allegiance, I would appreciate that. We don't have really a lot of youngins here. We'll do it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's go. Again, I don't see any newbies, so you all are frequent flyers. Just know that I will guide you through this. We are on number 2 in your scorecard there. The roll call. Evan, if you could go through the roll, please.
Turnbull. Here. Marowski Brown.
Here.
Carter. Here. Janetti.
Here.
Krenz.
Here.
Great. We are all here tonight. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you all. So we go to number 3, approval of the agenda. You have an agenda in front of you. We will, what would you like to know?
I'd like to make one change to
please
a
do.
motion on the agenda, consent agenda, item J. Mayor Pro Tem pointed out, the recommended motion should say contract to OHM in an amount not to exceed 44,500. So adding the words not to exceed, and that's the only change.
Yeah, and thank you, because that's a scribble edit, because the attachment is the contract and the contract does say not to exceed.
Great.
Thank you, George.
So with that, you have that over there.
We don't have to
Great.
bring it to the regular
Excellent.
agenda
Yep.
because it's a scribble edit.
Thank you very much for that. I know I was moving down the road of life here. So
Yeah, we're not,
with that consideration, anything else on the
well,
agenda?
well, this gets into the chicken and egg
Yes.
question, because there's one item I want to request to move off the consent agenda, but I think we do that when we
Yep,
get to the
we
consent
will.
agenda. So, okay.
So agenda as it is, and then we will move it. up
Yes,
from there.
just to clarify.
Good, great. Any other changes, adds or deletions? Good. I'm looking for a motion to go forward with the agenda. Do I have that?
Motion to approve.
Do we have support for that?
We're it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Good. We have an agenda. Public comment, anything that's not on the agenda. We are looking, we've heard from the last few meetings, we are looking to try to go online for comments in the near future. We might have like a lot of them who went back to that one time for those in our session live and one time online, but we are working towards that. We're not quite there, but I'm encouraged in the direction we're going right now. And I've talked to a lot of others. Some just have not gone back. We will go back, but we might do it as a one time so it's not confusing going on and off. So I've talked to about 18 different communities in Conference in Western Wayne. I brought it up at SEMCOG last week, and the minority of the group have gone back, but we were one of the first ones to do it. We will do that, I believe,
Yeah.
in a timely basis.
And you're talking streaming with public comment allowed.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Because
yes.
we have never discontinued streaming.
Right.
Just,
Streaming with public comment, and we'll probably do one session of anything that's on the agenda or not here, and one session online instead of going back and forth and back and
oh,
forth.
we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. So I'm just telling you, we're looking at that. I'm not answering a question. I know in the state of Michigan, they don't want us to do Q&A. This is not Q&A. This is just something that came up before. It's the right thing to do. We've talked about it in our strategic planning too. So I'm enthused about that. Right now, is there any public comment on things that are not on the agenda tonight? Going once, going twice? Great. I'm closing off section 4, public comment for things not on.
And just to reflect, we did receive 2 written comments,
That's what I understand.
and those are in our agenda that's online, our complete packet
Right.
online.
Yep.
So if anybody wants to read, we've read them, but if anybody else wants to read them.
Yeah, those are the John Roby and Mary Keys, I believe, has 2 letters out there. It's out there for the public and you have it in your packages. Thank you for reading those before you got here tonight. Thank you. Good catches. Number 5, consideration of the consent agenda. This is something, if you want to add something, we will do that off the consent agenda to the regular agenda. This would be the time.
Yeah, so request that the city, that item 5A, city council minutes from the regular meeting held on January 23rd be put on the regular meeting agenda. So added at, would that be C? 6C? No, not six.
E, I believe.
9D. Okay.
At 9,
Sorry
because
about
we have
that. I was
yep.
looking, just the 23rd. And I will confess that we didn't get these till late Friday. I'm reviewing the packet. So I didn't have a chance to get to the special meeting minutes on goals and priorities. But my assumption is all of that is on the record
Right.
for, in terms of, for administrative consideration of what we requested or amended or supported. So,
And does Evan have any of the changes?
well,
that we're
that's
gonna go
why
through yet?
I'm not, yes, I
Okay.
did send him, I sent you the edited.
So-
Yeah, I sent him because I had given you a heads up that I'd be sending him because Mike has directed any comments to you. Hold on, let me, because I sent him this
No problem.
afternoon.
We'll look, we'll get them printed up before we get to that
Well,
one.
no, I should, while you're
Yeah, why don't you send it
moving
again?
on, I'll look at my sent, like, because I sent it to you, CC'd Mike,
And
so.
once you CC me in between all of us, I'll get it to him and he can print it up and take a
August
look at it while it's in front of him.
Okay, while you're
Great,
moving
yep.
on, I'll pull my
Great,
email up.
great, because we're going to be hearing a couple of presentations here. So great. I think that's good. So we have that as a new business item. Anything else on the consent agenda? So I'm looking for approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to go forward with that, that change?
Motion to approve as amended.
Do I have support for that?
I'll support it.
Great. So any other discussion? Seeing none, we can do that too. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Good.
Oh, and
We
I-
have a consent.
Yes,
agenda.
I was focusing.
I got it. I assume that. So let's go on to presentations. We are looking forward to the Cemetery Restoration Task Force, and we have one of the two leaders, and Mr. Krenz, it is all yours.
Can I make one, yes, I did submit two attachments. Do you have it?
Yep,
Okay,
he's
so
got
you-
it.
So when we get to those, if you could have those printed. And there's two documents. One's just a summary. So it's all in one place, but the other actually incorporates it into the minutes themselves with the red lining.
And if we're in this presentation, we want to go print it and put it in front of him, feel free.
Anyway, sorry, I just wanted
Nope.
to, okay.
Great. So you have it right now.
And I'll have one sentence I'd like to edit. I'll just read it since I wasn't able to get it to you.
Yep.
All right, good evening, council. It's intimidating to be on this side.
Nice to see you.
Yes, so we do have in the crowd several of our cemetery renewal task force attacks.
Yes, we do.
Coming this evening.
It's great to see you.
They are a powerful group of 19, so we are filling the room tonight, which is outstanding.
Great.
I think we just went dark.
Oh, you're on.
Cord got knocked.
Don't touch any cords over there.
All right,
Don't
nobody
breathe
move.
over there.
Nobody move. All right, so tonight what I'd like to do.
time at a council meeting?
First time.
Good, yeah.
It's terrifying. I don't
You
understand.
kind of know that. Welcome
Well,
tonight.
thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. All right, we have several people who are scattered around the country or sick this evening, so I'm going to support the presenting of our community update. So that's, in a sense, it's almost an introduction to the broader community of what we're going to be doing over the next 2 years, along with the help of my esteemed citizens in the crowd here. So there's 19 of us working on it. So this is the work that's been compiled since September.
Outstanding.
So you're stuck with me presenting tonight. And I'm going to start off with a quote from William Gladstone, who was Prime Minister of the UK in the late 1800s. He said, "Show me a manner in which a nation cares for its dead, and I will measure with mathematical exactness the tender mercies of its people, the respect for the laws of the land, and their loyalty to higher ideals." So that's an overarching theme of what we're about to see. What you're going to take a look at is the state of disrepair our cemeteries are in, and I don't think anybody should be okay with that. So next.
Yes.
All right, our charge, in broad totality, I say if I was going to summarize this page without reading it word for word, I say, imagine if we put the pride of that we have in our historical structures into our grounds, our historic, well, I can't speak, into our historical cemeteries and those who are therein. So this community prides itself in the historic district, the structures, what we're suggesting is we have an opportunity here with our cemeteries and our ancestors and forefathers that were before us to pick that up as well, because that is a loud and vibrant part of our history. So you can see we have 19, actually that's now 20 esteemed citizens. A lot of those names are familiar. There's some really fantastic people on here with different expertises. We won't go through all of them, but thank you to each and every person on here. I will just quickly read the mission statement. For the record, mine was about 300 words and it got pared down, so thank you. The Renewal Task Force is going to be dedicated to three things: restoring and preserving our cemeteries as sacred spaces that honor our ancestors. If you go look, especially across the street here, I don't think anybody would disagree that we're not honoring them today. And we need to do
Great
better.
job.
We need to do better. Also connect with our communities through its heritage and sustainable care and thoughtful improvement. So we need to connect with the community on being able to tell the history of everything that's in there. So what we have is we have history spread all over this community. You could do the cemetery walk. There's oral traditions. There's historical society. There's all these other places that have different pieces of history. And part of our charge, we believe, is going to be to pull those all together and make it accessible, as opposed to you going in there and not being able to understand what some of these names are and how important they are to the history of this community. It's simply that infrastructure doesn't exist where it does in other cities. And then also, if you look at it today, you're going to say, how did we even get here to begin with? So what we're going to propose over time as one of our three charges of this group is sustainable care. So what does that look like long-term in terms of stone maintenance, in terms of upkeep on fences and trees and invasive species, and have that discussion down the road on what that element wants to look like under the, the capital improvement plan for the cemetery. So we think that we want to turn the ratchet, but we don't want it to go back. So what we see here is the beginning of where it should be and stay, not just could be and fall off once the 20 of us maybe are including our work. All right, next page. There is lag on here, so just bear with us. There we go. All right, so I thank Wendy much for much of this data. Just as an interesting side note, you can take a look at some of our cemeteries on the right and what the relative ages are. We have our two up there, so we do have Oakwood and Rural Hill. Oakwood is retired. That's the one across the street. And we, of course, all know Rural Hill is off 7 Mile, which is getting the culvert bridge later this year. And we're one of the oldest in the entire region. And you can even take a look at it. I mean, it makes sense to anybody who follows history, but Arlington didn't come along until 1864. But here we are in 1828. Now, if you're astute at paying attention to the signage that's out there, we're going to have some questions on why 1828 and not 1808. Which is what the sign is, and we are getting to the bottom of that, so there's more to come here. So just some brief history, like why should you care? Why should you be interested in this? Why does this matter? It's our oldest cemetery. It's one of the oldest in the community, and it might even be a little bit older than 1828. We're still working on what that is, but it's not like you commission it and it comes into place. Oftentimes it just starts and then it becomes, and land is given. So there's not really a commission or a born on date here. So, some of these, there's a little bit of art on those dates, but you get the feeling that that's a special place we have. It's one of the oldest in the entire region. The first resident that we know that is at rest there, his name is Henry Cady. He was the infant son of Daniel and Eliza way back in 1828. So that's where the 1828 date comes from. So you can find that if you go in there, but we're going to get to the point where you're going to be able to geo-point where that is and go with that on your phone or something along those lines. So that's when it started, and you might know that from the Cady street name from the Cady family as well. So we're lost. All right. So I'm going to keep talking here and you can get us back up there. What's fascinating too, I don't know how many people knew this, but we have veterans buried from every war, from Revolutionary up to the Spanish-American War. I mean, it must be mind-blowing to think what this place looked like when you had somebody who fought in the Revolutionary War come out here to the frontier, and this is where they ended. It's just absolutely astonishing when you think about it. You should be in awe. And then I won't read them all off, but basically what those historical families look like, all the streets that Mike's got to repair over the next 10, 12 years. So those are all the names right there. So you can see that basically a lot of the history, where the names came from, the core founding families, you can walk that cemetery and you can find their ancestors all the way back to the beginning, which is absolutely astonishing that that's right across the street. Rural Hill obviously is active. It's much, much larger. So that took on a theme. So they changed the theme to more like a garden built into the landscape. It was an Eastern United States tradition in the 1830s to make cemeteries more beautiful, make them more like parks. And so that followed that tradition back from the 1830s. And we do have at least 750 veterans there. So you will find that there's Memorial Day activities that do occur there. And maybe there's something to think about what we do, more of that in the future and how we do tell stories or, as people go back there, what stories are we walking past today that we don't even know? And so part of what we're going to do is try to vet that out.
Excellent.
And then actually we have one soul from who died in World War I who's in there as well. So that's Lloyd Green. So as you go deeper and deeper into this is just scratching the surface of everything they've had, but it's just absolutely astonishing the amount of interesting information that is interesting information that's kind of buried there, no pun intended,
Yes.
that we have to still root out and pull out and make active to our community. All right, next page. All right, so these pictures are a little small, but I do want to tell a story here. And this gets back to Gladstone's comments that I started with. If you get a chance, you can even walk through there, even with the snow on the ground, and you're still going to see the stark reality of how that Oakwood looks. These were pictures taken by some of the team earlier in the fall. But what you're seeing there on the top is just a condition none of us should be proud of. With as much as we care about the history of this town, it defines who we are. And you go walk that, it's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, having been someone who's been inspired to do this, from having been in the Luxembourg Cemetery to being in Arlington, and then you come look at this relative to some of the other ones nearby, this is clearly unacceptable. So you have broken, heaved, tipped, buried, unmarked. Like if there's a failure mode that you could look at on stones, I mean, it's extraordinary how some of those trees have grown so much that some of those stones are getting picked up and moved. They might not even map back to the original spot. And there's so much more behind that. The vision, if you walk in there, and I encourage everybody to do this. In fact, we had a really nice comment from Jen Lukart, who lives right down the corner. She was able to notice the difference, and she sent a message to Dave Merrill, who's running this, who's leading this quite well, and saying, I can't believe that cradle is back in one piece. She's never seen it like that.
And you can see it all white.
You see it all white. It's all together. It's all sealed.
Great.
It's back and you can see it. So anybody here, go walk. All you have to do is walk 5 feet inside the gate, and you're going to see what the future of this looks like. It's extraordinary. But
The
you look
gates
at,
are open from dawn to
Gate
dusk.
Road, yep, but you look, then I also encourage you to go look around, go look at the state of the fences, go look at the overgrown trees, which thank you, Mike has been pulling out, and he's
Yep.
been doing some
Great
work
job
on the
on that.
dormant oaks this winter. So with the help of Mr. Porterfield, who's here, but in the spring, it's going to be worse because what you're going to find is stones that are tipped over, stones that are literally set up by trees. Some of the team here has found through their years of quiet service, stones that are buried underneath dirt that might have been from excavation of plots next to them. And those people are gone, lost for history until we kind of figure that out. So it's really poor, the condition that we're in right now. You look at the benches and the fencing and the fact that we don't really have signage. There's no guided tours. What you could look at as a good benchmark for that would be the Brighton Old Village Cemetery, has much of that. They have a very strong community engagement. There's a group of people outside of the government, but with consent of the city government there that's doing extraordinary things. But the 1808, and we're going to work on a better story on that, but we do think that was kind of a misreading of a document at some other time. I don't know if anybody's got Wendy or Chuck but we're going to get to the lore on that, but that does not appear to be accurate. So we'll be coming back and asking for a new, much nicer sign at some point that's more accurate in the years to come. But no, we have no documentation of anything that occurred there that would, let's say, christen that area as a cemetery in 1808. But more so with the first Katie internment there was in 1828. So more lore to come. But this is what it looks like, and this is where we want to go. So you look at, real nice iron gate signage. Where that wants to go, we're already talking to Mike. Chuck has already been engaging HDC because we're in the HDC here. Kind of setting the work to get us going over the next 2 fiscal years. Next page, please. All right, I'm not going to go through this, but it will be in the record. What this is something of our, we'll call bars and diamonds chart. So in my world, this is something like a tactical plan one thing comes before the other and one thing follows the other. This has to happen for that to happen. And it lays out where we want to go up through the bicentennial year. So with the bicentennial coming in 2027, we want to be done, let's say, with the near and midterm work by the end of 26 and be ready for 27.
Yes.
We'll be talking to the bicentennial task force on that. But also, if you keep in mind, 2028 would be the bicentennial of the cemetery itself. So we want to be ready in advance of that as well. So there's a few things that if we kind of walk left to right, that black box is the next fiscal year. And so you have a Word document of some general, let's say, capital estimates on things that would have to happen. Yes, yeah, and we'll get a better format. We're going to keep working with it, but the team is kind of scattered this week, so we did the best we could to get it to you. But this at least gives you an idea to understand some of the requests that we have coming. I will also say this, that so far, all the work that's been done, thank you, Mayor, has been through private donations. And maybe we keep that going to some extent, so
We
we
will.
can run private and public. You can see the stone repair first season and second season. So what do you have? 400 something stones-ish, 400, we'll call it 400 in Oakwood. If we think we can get through 180 a year, we'll be done. Since we already have some done, we'll be done by the end of 26.
And I
Don't-
thank those citizens who have reached out and wanted to be involved, and they are helping support this. So I
Thank you to
will
those
work.
private donations. And it's also because of those private donations that we can get on. There's one representative or one person who does this work, the Dave Carter, so far is his calendar's filling. So we're already working, we're shaking the mayor, we're turning them upside down, getting all the quarters out of his
This
pocket.
is true. We
to
appreciate
to get
that.
us going for
ahead.
this season here. Because the other part of this, and you'll see this on the next page, is we do have to have a little more discussion on when and where public funding starts and stops relative to private stones. We think with some work that some of the team has done here in the room, that some of the ordinance language, maybe we can have further discussion. So George, Tony, look forward to another meeting. So we're going to sit down and have that. We have a little bit of time. That's not imminent, but we do want to discuss that is where is the actual line, if there is one, between public and private? Because in a retired cemetery, our public funds allowed to be used to touch and repair private stones. So we think we might have a good legal theory that says the city can do this. We'll take it outside of here because I think I'm already losing
Yes.
everybody on that one.
Yeah.
And then we got fence install and archway. Go walk that fence. That fence needs repair. I might ask that we take a look at on the side of the art house. Apparently they like backing into the fences. So we got to go take a look at what's going on, or if it's the snow getting pushed into it. So we're going to work with our friends at the art house on that in terms of what we want to do. But we want to replace the fences. We want to put in an arch. The arch would not be over the access road for the DPW because of height. But that would be something that's coming. And you can see if it's a dollar sign, that means money's coming from somewhere. If it's HDC, means that's going to have to be something that goes in front of HDC. So we're kind of looking at it this way. Now, the important part on here is on the bottom is we're still piecing together. And if the bicentennial team has any ideas of how we go from collecting all of the data in all the different places or information and histories, consolidate it, where do we put it, how do we store it, and how do we make it accessible, who can do it? I know we have some historians on the team that are ready to get going. It's just, I'm not sure that I'm smart enough right now to say this is how we're going to do it. So if the bicentennial team is going to be going mining for history and looking for a way to make it easy with QR codes on a
Yep.
history walk or something like that, we want to be a part of that so we can understand it.
Tandem with your group.
Let's
Yes.
figure it out once. And then that can be something that stays. Like there's a cemetery in Farmington that kind of geocaches and geopoints each gravestone. You go there and it gives you the history on your phone. It's fantastic. If Farmington can do it, we can do it. I'm quite sure of that. So
Absolutely.
long-term, so that's going to be through 2026. There's going to be some cleanup events. We already had one. I'll show that in a minute. But long-term, there's a coffin house back there. So they used to put coffins back there in the winter when the ground was frozen. There's an opportunity to do something with that, what that looks like, if it's kind of a place of kind of some history and some artifacts or whatever we want to do, there's something there. Long-term organization. Plymouth has a formal task force through the city. And Brighton has a group of highly energized private citizens that goes and does extraordinary work with upkeep on the cemetery. So not something we have to resolve today, but maybe something we have to consider in the future. So when we make all these improvements, we don't let it slide. I don't think that would benefit anybody. Long-term budget, we'll talk about this someday, or whoever's sitting in these chairs in 2027, what that looks like, and working with Mike on, how do we do the upkeep on stone maintenance and cleaning and the
Sure.
D2 spray and everything else that goes with it, so we don't let it slide into disrepair. What does that look like? And some landscaping, well, what that might look like if we want to do hardscape and so on. But those are down the road. We're just doing those first couple of things there. Next page, please. This is more of the same, but just put into bubbles, so we're not going to go through this. But what I'll ask everybody to do is just kind of point to the remaining fiscal year. So that's the first couple quarters of this year. And thank you to Mike and DPW for getting the oak trees trimmed during their dormancy. Thank you to Jim for pointing that out. We've also identified some invasive and tree scrub we're pulling out. Like, a lot of that is, I guess, really bad for our neighbors on Wynn Court. We're going to do some tree cutting near heave stones, but we're going to have to come back in and probably stump grind those in the future state and then reset those stones, because you saw in that one picture that we were planting giant trees right next to stones. So the inevitable did happen. And then the asterisk on stone cleaning is it's currently by donations. And then we're going to have that discussion on whether that's public and private. The next year at the bottom is just some discussion on when we get into budget setting for the next fiscal cycle. Things that we would want to look at, maybe ask the city or private donations for, to keep us on task to get done by the end of 26. So just take a look at that. Take a look what's in your spreadsheet or in the document, and that should align relatively closely. Next page. All right, so work has already been done, and we ought to recognize anytime a citizen group stands up and does the work. If you were on Katie, I think this was in September. Forgive me, I think it was in September. But the Boy Scout troop, Mike, was it? It was probably September.
Yep.
But if you went down there, you saw something like 20, 30 bags. They cut trees. They did all branches down. They took down dead branches. So they did really great work there in the fall. We'll probably want to start finding other groups that maybe want to do spring cleanup, fall cleanup, and really try to make progress and keep moving on it.
Yep.
But what you can also see is when you walk in, so this was when we had snow last weekend. I wanted to do a little before and after picture to show you, yes, you can tell the difference here. So you can see on the left, this last week, you have stones leaning against trees. You got one tipped over, you got one to the side. They're heaved, they're moved. But then if you look at on the right, I think that's something you can be proud of. And that's what good looks like. And that's what we should be doing. So that is work that you can go in and see right now when you go walk in the gate. I encourage everybody on the phone and in the room to go check that out. And that's what I think this city and those people there deserve. Next page. All right, I think this is it. So what success looks like for us. So what our vision is you look at what other communities are doing. Brighton and others have received commendations from the state and other areas in terms of all the work that they've put in. And that makes it all the more attainable for us. We should look at what they're doing and say we can do that too or better. But in the end, what we want to do is preserve and renew physical elements and the embedded histories. This town is nothing if it doesn't have its history. And then there's actually another interesting quote out there. And I think it's quite pertinent to everybody in the room that actually cemeteries are for the living, not for those that are gone. So we need to treat it as such. So what we're asking the citizens on the phone and those up here to say is take a look at this, start considering what you want to do or how do you think the city should support over the next 2 cycles and beyond, and how to make these areas something that we can be proud of. Now, with respect to the last comment with Rural Hill, they're doing the bridge this year. So a lot of that, or the culvert, the bridge over the culvert this year. So that's probably going to limit some of the work, but we are going to be focusing as a team on that. But it was clearly Oakwood that had more of a dire need. And, I think is maybe a little more, front and center, because you do walk past it. You do see the age of that. You do see the names of our forefathers and those that came before us. All right. And I think that might be it. Jim, Chuck, did I miss anything? Or Jim, Wendy? Okay. Any questions?
So let me start by thanking you, Andrew and David Merrill. Done a yeoman's job with all of you in the audience that are part of the team. This was kind of a project of mine that I wanted to get going, and it's going so much better than I thought. Yes, I will be there to support. Different people in town want to support it. We will not slow down because we're looking for the financial support on it. We have a half a dozen people that are lined up to support what you're doing. It's great work. We're all on, as you said, the shoulders of those that came before us. It's for us to see that history and be part of it. And those oaks, it's called Oakwood because it has the oldest oaks in the whole Northville area. They have been here for the last 200 years, what those oaks have seen, and that'll be part of the history, you know, that we're doing. Besides, you have one thing about the families and one thing about what the oaks have seen, and even that coffin house, it'll be a little deal, and just a little bit of history once you figure out if it's 1808 or 1828 or
Yep,
whatever it is.
Of course,
But
still old.
I've gotten so many comments from people walking by because the gates are open and you go in there and you can see both sides, you know, new stones that have been uprighted, that's been fixed. And even a lot of people, because of that, have got involved. The Millrace Village, you know, the guys that do all the ironwork, they're ready to restore some of those areas inside. They're ready to work on the front gate once the Historical Society, you know, or the HTC group decides what we want to do. But we have a lot of commitment, and I just thank you for being so enthusiastic to get this done. We in the council will truly support this in one way or another, private and public donations. And yeah, we'll go through that.
Yep.
You know, if it's trip and fall and accident prone stones that can come up, we have legal representation. We can do it, you know, maybe not to touch and clean them, but I think there's so much we can do, you know, with the fund. So yeah, I would like us to do, you know,
And
more than
I want to
less.
make sure everybody know that Dave Merrill has done incredible work.
Dave has done outstanding.
Dave has been, he's been the driving force behind this.
He has been the chair, you're the vice chair, and he has done,
My credit.
I know he couldn't be here. I believe he's out of town. I am in contact with him almost weekly or almost daily, and with you, Andrew, about the progress. I'm very enthused about this. So I thank you and the entire team for being part of this.
Anything else?
Yeah, so thank you very much for all your work in this presentation. A lot of work left to do, but you've got a good plan, right? And so thank you very much for laying that out. Much work to do. I also just want to thank you for the mayor for kicking this off. This wouldn't have happened without your recognizing
That's right.
how we have forgotten about
My
our
pleasure.
city-owned property. So on that note is that, just to emphasize, this is a designated historic cemetery. It is a
Correct.
contributing place within the historic district. That makes a difference in two ways. One is our cities, we have to acknowledge our city's responsibility for this.
Mhm.
And you address that with the sustainable, you know,
Right.
so we have short-term and long-term. But I think this begins a line in the sand to say, we as a city need to take responsibility for this land we own, which was designated as a public cemetery long
Ordinance
ago.
22, 10 and 11, we're
Yeah.
going to be getting deep
And I mean,
into.
the state laws on publicly owned cemeteries certainly give some guidance, but it's rather harsh and doesn't consider historic. For example, if after 7 years in the municipality working with the family, if that family doesn't maintain that plot and would put it the stone, you can, after repeated request, you can have that stone removed and the person uninterred. We're not there. This is a historic cemetery. So we're not going to go back and try to find the Katies and say, you know, your son's stone isn't
Definitely,
revered
that's
anymore,
out of
right? From
That is definitely out of scope.
1828 or whatever. So it is, at this point, it is our responsibility. This isn't people that were just put in 10, 15 years ago and are not maintaining their plot. So I think that's step one. And I'm glad you have it in there to work with our city attorney, understanding what our responsibilities are, both through our ordinance as well as state law. And then also looking, do we need to have a modification that makes clear what our responsibility is via the ordinance? So that we can, it makes sense to have some capital improvement set asides for this retired cemetery, historic cemetery. So thank you for the lead. I know that's more into the weeds, but if you look at your chart on everything that needs to be done, the city needs to, I think it helps get those those donations and dollars, whatever mechanism is put in play, to show that the city has recognized their commitment to this as well. And money talks in terms of
And
commitment.
selfishly, Mayor Pro Tem, on that point, I wouldn't mind if there was a little bit of free publicity in city news or other venues, just so people become aware of it.
Mhm.
Right?
So, And that was basically just as an FYI is that if we're talking about Rural Hill, there is a bit of a model for having an ongoing
Mhm.
versus an ad hoc committee related to this, wherever your team decides that should be transitioning from a task force to a committee for that sustainable aspect. If within Rural Hill, there is a committee ongoing for the veterans portion.
Yes.
Is a designated committee between the American Legion and the city. Of course, VFW has gotten involved to help support American Legion.
Got it.
So we've got a model of how the city, and that's from ages ago, I think the 90s or 80s, it's long. I've got that. Yeah, I've got that document if you guys don't have, but anyway,
dates
so.
all the way back
Thank
to the
you very much.
1950s.
I think we need to recognize somehow in this going into, because, well, one, I have two questions for you.
Sure.
Is one, you have our current fiscal year, which doesn't end until June 30th.
Correct.
So we have that. So is there any thought or ask for reallocating any small amount of funds for the work that's going to be kicking off in the spring? And that's part one.
Mhm.
Part two is we're going to be now approaching our budget that's going to begin July 1st. So is there any ask in the city budget capital improvement for the task that, for that cycle as well?
Perfect question. So if you look at the remaining fiscal year, a lot of this is going to come through private donations, in part because the schedule for Dave Carter, who's the one that we know does this right now, and he's done what we have seen here, is his calendar is filling. So we're acting on it now. Like I said, we already turned the mayor over, getting all the quarters and dimes out. So
We will get it.
we have that. I think we're okay there. Tree
Through
tree
Public
cutting-
donations, not,
Yes.
we won't be paying for
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
right.
yes.
Tree cutting near heave
Go ahead.
stones. I think
Private,
is
private donations to companies and individuals.
part of our maintenance. So we were somewhat intentional here that for the rest of this year, we weren't going to come in and ask for any amendments. The stone marker and cleaning, like I said, was going to be done by Clark or Carter, I'm sorry. But we wouldn't mind if there's an opportunity at some point, I put it under next year, but maybe if we start keeping our eyes open. I know that Wendy Longpre's busy. If there's opportunities for SHPO grants, we're not counting on it. We're just asking a generalized question. I don't know if there's anything to it. I did talk to George about, and this is something that's more resource driven, is how could we set up, for lack of a better word, a data framework? Where do we store information? What other groups have this information? How do we pull them together? Does it go on the city website? Like, what do we want to do if we have some people from the administration side that can somewhat help us? I don't know where to begin on that one just yet. Next year, you can see also at the Word document you have here, we're going to be looking at fence repair and replacement, actually, on the north side. And then we got to take a look on the east side. And then after the snow thaws, we got to see if there's ways that we can put that fence in without maybe the cars from that adjacent parking lot hitting them. That might be when we start asking for, based on our meeting with the attorney and George, about if there's a line drawn there or not on public and private funding for stone repair, but that work is ongoing. So the big one this next year is going to be the fence. And then we think the archway would be the year after that. So we're going to distribute that. And that might take a little more time to do a design phase versus buying fencing that's, already available. Maybe do something special like the ironwork that would be
Right.
done. And then longer term, a high budget item is something we can talk about in strategic planning would be hardscape. If that's something we want to do, I think that'll take a little bit of time for a resolution. It would be a higher cost depending. Is it just a pad? Is it a pathway? I think we know that would take some time to kind of resolve what that wants to look like and maybe get some input from HDC and so on. But that's what it looks like. So intentionally this year, we're not asking for any amendments. We're just asking for resources from DPW, and then you can start to see next year.
So just to clarify, so current fiscal year, we're not asking for any
Correct.
funds, so there'd be no amendment.
No amendments.
And then I would like to appreciate,
Am I missing something?
well, but I appreciate that there's in-kind city resources being done, particularly in the tree, so that is important. It isn't a line item in the budget. It's already in the budget.
Correct.
So I really appreciate DPW's work in this. So think about, do we need some sort of seed money in this upcoming budget, which it will, we'll be
I think we will be asking
reviewing.
for.
Okay.
Yes.
So on that, in terms of SHPO, we do have a little bit of a challenge that will be overcome, we have a new liaison. So we had a liaison, I believe that transition it was in the summer. This is a SHPO liaison to the city. Every city has one that has this historic district. We have not been we used to get emails routinely, the Historic District Commission, the city and myself as liaison. Here's grant opportunities, here's this, not only for the historic district to apply for them, but individuals to apply, other entities, or the Park Service has this. We are not getting any of those now. So I think one thing I can work with Wendy or Justin is getting that communication back open so we know what those opportunities are. Yeah, I mean,
Good.
okay, so just
Excellent.
from the peanut gallery, Justin just said that they have been contacted to get back to where we were. The communication used to be excellent. In fact, once in a while, they'd even attend HDC meetings. But one caution is HDC, the SHPO grants often are for consulting work, reports, and so the physical work often is not covered, but that doesn't mean there's not other ones out there that SHPO can direct us to in terms of the National Park Service and things of that nature, or even within the state of Michigan itself.
Well
So anyway, so
No,
thank you
perfect.
and thanks, Justin. So.
Excellent. Anybody else that has? comments?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I just wanted to highlight hard work and commitment is behind almost every great contribution we have in our community. And so just a thank you to Dave Merrill. I know we've got Jim, Chuck,
Yes.
and Wendy here today, and you as well, Andrew. There's a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. I know this part's surprising you, but that goes into something like this, and it really does mean a lot to the community.
Thank you.
So thank you all. And there's honestly, sometimes I think we underestimate how lucky we are.
We are.
Not a lot of communities get 19 people that jump in immediately to restore a
Indeed.
cemetery.
Yep.
That is a pretty profound statement about who we are as a community.
It's the only way we can do all these things with all the citizen
Right, me with a good
involvement.
time.
The other thank you is I do want to thank Mike Dominy and DPW, both from a tree trimming standpoint, but I know also at Rural Hill, Mike has spent a lot of time looking at the plot maps, analyzing who's there, where they are, the background behind that, and doing a lot of research. So thank you for all of that extra effort and the work that goes into getting a sustainable structure and model going forward. In terms of the activity here, one thing I was wondering, I know the sign is 1808 to 1990. Do we know when the last restoration of Oakwood took place or has a restoration like this?
I don't even know if we have one
To
documented.
my knowledge from being around here, I don't ever remember a restoration. We've just been keeping it rolling. And I appreciate what DPW has done over the last few decades just to keep it going. We are trying to give you the tools to support you more. But to my knowledge of 64 years in this world around here, I don't know of that. I've never heard from my parents or my grandparents that it was ever a renovation unless you could.
There was a group that formed about 2013.
Yep.
They tried to do something, and I don't know, there's documents out there that say they existed, but I'm not sure they actually did.
Yeah, to my knowledge, it got a little bit difficult to deal with, not deal with the city, but to do what they want to. So yeah, I've heard of that. And I didn't put that out there as they did something, but they wanted to do something. It got complicated. So yeah, I've heard that same thing, Chuck.
Well, and there is, you can observe that, that there's been mowing done and
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
basic maintenance by DPW. And the chain link fence certainly is since much later than 1828. So there has been work done, but it's been minimal at
Right.
best.
Yep. Indeed.
We have an opportunity.
Good.
The last thing I was going to note, and you touched on it earlier, is I'm really excited about how this effort is going to contribute into our bicentennial
Yes.
task force.
Yep.
We have been talking about historical tours, a social media campaign around this day in Northville. I think all of the information that's being gathered feeds into that perfectly to make sure we're building that base and we're recognizing and celebrating all that history. The good news is our History of Northville chair happens to also be a member of your task force as well. So I think we've got some good parallels, overlap, and commitment But let's make sure we continue to coordinate through that because I think there's definitely
Agreed.
opportunities to not only gather all that information, but then just make sure we're blasting it out, sharing it with the community, celebrating it appropriately.
Agreed.
And we will have an update sometime from the bicentennial. Of course, John is the co-chair of the bicentennial committee, and we will, with Rick Sharp is doing just an outstanding job too. This will be one of the stops on the tour, and we have a concept, and somebody's already going to donate a trolley, and we'll have different stops and the history on there. People can get off and then get on the next one, walk around. But your part, they're both working together. That I'm pretty enthused about what's going to happen, because if that is one of the stops, you know, I'm pretty excited about all the other stops too, with all the work you're doing. So great. Others?
I'm good. Everybody's doing a great job.
Anything else?
Great.
Thank you to
Great.
those on the phone and
Outstanding. Great update.
Thank you all.
We'll stay alert on this. Thank you. So Mike, I think you are up next, and as Mike is coming in here again, and I will have you go from there. Go.
Yep, just to start off, so this is a conversation just to share information. We're on the theme of infrastructure. We'll be coming back to council in the coming month or so with, or probably 2 months, heading into the budget with I think hopefully a comprehensive list of capital improvements, things that we know about, things we're working on, things that are yet to be funded. And this gets into an area of things that gets a little confusing because we know about 2 drain culverts and issues. We're started working on one with Serenity Point, and then we know about the High Street Bridge. But there are 2 extra areas that we want to bring council's attention to and talk a little bit about, some needs and a little bit of urgency with them. And then this will segue into the whole discussion of the capital improvement. And you can ask questions of Mike, obviously.
Yep.
So with that, Mike, do you want to?
And you can educate us. Some people don't know what a culvert is. I know more than I want to now under the drains. And just going back to the previous presentation, I thank you and your team for all you've done to keep Oakwood Cemetery going.
Mhm.
If you didn't do what you did, we couldn't have this task force to get it to the next level. We're trying to give you some tools and support in the future. So I thank you. You've jumped on trees lately, and you know the fence has been redone, but you've kept it up and going. If you look at some cemeteries, they're in a total state of disrepair. You couldn't do anything like we're doing on that task force. So I thank you for that and everything you've done. So
I could probably sit up here for another half hour talking about cemeteries.
I know, please don't, but thank you very much. Yeah. But from that, tell us just a hair, and I know I said do the Reader's Digest version, but culverts, what's the name? You're going to show us all these pictures, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yep. Well, thanks, Mayor,
You bet.
Council, and George. So this presentation is more just presentation. There's no motion. There's no
Okay.
recommendation.
Great.
Like George said, you guys already know of 2 projects going on. We got a couple other projects that we'd like to share with you. There's actually another one that's popped up since last week. That's also mentioned on here as well. Before I start going into it, I do have Jeff Wilson. He's from,
Jeff, how are you tonight?
Yep, he's from Oakland County, Drain
Thanks for
Commission
coming.
office. He helps oversee the Oakland County portion of this, not just Oakland County, but the whole Randolph drain. So
Yep.
when I have an issue with the Oakland County drain, Randolph, I go to Jeff. So he's our liaison that helps us out. So talking about culverts here in Northville, the biggest one that runs through Northville is the Randolph drain. Starts up there at the northwest corner and kind of trickles across the city over to Mill Pond. How does it get over there? It goes through culverts under our major and local roads. The 2 that George already talked about, Serenity Point, which is already been kicked off, got crews out there already working. The other one is High Street Culvert. That one has been having issues for several years. Portions of it is closed currently. And we did get some funding for it. We do know the total price is estimated about 1.2 million, but thanks to the mayor, he was able to get us some funding for it. But we still have some funding needs for the other. So besides those 2 culverts that you guys have already, we've discussed with you before, the 2 other ones that George mentioned was Center Street sinkhole. Crossing under North Center Street, there is 2 culverts side by side, part of the Randolph drain. And one of them outdates the other one, which is one of the major culverts. And it's shown in your packet, if you could pull it up. The packet has two inspection reports, one from OHM, the city's engineers, and one from HRC, counties.
And one has the
engineers.
bricks kind of going around.
So
That
that's-
is an old time.
So that's the one that's under North Center Street.
Yep.
And the breakdown of there's about 6, 7 segments of different pipe. Shapes of it, the type of pipe, type of material. And that's where we got a sinkhole over the summertime that formed. It would be on the northbound lane, right up against the curve.
Yep, that's it.
Yep, closer to where where the old pizza cutter's at. Right where the green and the kind of pink lines meet. But right around there is when we had a sinkhole exposed. We called Jeff out. Him and his team came out, took a look at it. They crawled up there in the pipe and spotted the same deteriorating pipe that OHM also saw in their report early in 2024. So as of right now, DPW, we've cold patched it, we're maintaining it, we're just keeping eyes on it. However, there is a recommendation in the proposal and inspections on how we should tackle that. Ideally, it's to get to it early before it causes a bigger issue, and once you let it go, it's even more money. So that's the one with the Center Street.
Could you show a picture of, do we have a picture of the
Yeah.
interior of that? Because I think that's
If you
quite
scroll up,
interesting to see the challenge that we're having with
Um,
that. Then that's where the brick, stacked brick is where the sinkhole, above that is largely where the sinkhole is, right?
scroll down.
It looks like it's out of the Roman times.
See, that's
and stuff.
that's the
Oh,
sinkhole.
where is,
You'll go up a little bit.
Go up.
So that little patch right there, that's where the sinkhole is.
Mhm.
But when a sinkhole looks little like that,
There's a
because we've
lot
had big
underneath it.
sinkholes
Yes.
on High Street on the north side
Yes.
of that culvert.
So-
What happens?
So
to the-
from above, it looks like, like that, a little 6-inch by 6-inch void. But what underneath it, it's a little bit bigger. It's maybe 6 feet. This one wasn't as bad as High
But
Street.
this is heavily trafficked
Yes.
roadway. So, and whose responsibility for, like, obviously we take responsibility, but in terms of for the repair of that, is that one of those that is a shared cost
something
or it's our cost?
That's something that we will discuss. We will.
It's an opportunity.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
We'll
it's-
we'll be discussing which ones of these are, would be
Us,
considered
which is
just us.
together.
And some that would be considered a joint.
During the presentation tonight, you're gonna hit on that.
Yes.
tonight. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I think you have that
Not
to the
tomorrow,
end.
we're getting into it now.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Now, could you show the underground of that?
Yeah, if you keep going down.
Because I think it's quite interesting. Page 53.
Yeah, when I get through my list of,
53, I think.
oh, you'll see. Right.
Yeah, right there. Right out of the Roman era.
It does look.
I know.
It's old.
Scroll down a little bit more.
Historic infrastructure. It's old. Look at the bricks
Yeah.
coming out.
It's a vault.
Yep, and some bricks have been jammed back in there, different than the beginning.
So you can see the problem.
I understand the opportunity.
So there are cars rolling over that, what, 6 feet above it?
So what's presented in the packet from HRC, they gave us some short-term recommendations and then also some immediate or some long-term. Right there, you're looking between 350 and 450,000 to get that secured and to improve it. That will last a long time. If we were to wait a long period of time, that price there is not a full replacement. Full replacement would be 2 to 3 times that amount.
Can you show them on the map what would actually be replaced? Because you'd be putting a form in, right?
Yes,
To fix that. What?
and it's back up to that one where you saw the segment going all the way across. Right there, yep. So pretty much where you see from the blue line going over to the pink line.
Where's pink?
So can you go?
Pink is always to the right, section 6.
Section 6
Oh,
would be
okay.
replaced. That's the
It's
one.
like hot pink,
Yeah, it looked kind
It's
of
red.
reddish.
reddish
Yeah,
color hot.
That's right. So that area would be there'd be a form put in and there would be what's it called? A lining.
it's like a
basically
lining,
a
yes. It'd be like a lining. It'd be pretty much putting a smaller pipe, just sleeving it, kind of putting a smaller pipe with inside.
Which
And that-
essentially is almost like a new pipe.
Yeah.
It will last for years, but if it does begin to fail and you can't do that, then we get into
Huge
then
money.
we're getting to the
Yep.
reconstruction of it.
Yes, you gotta have somewhat of, the pipe that's currently there has to be intact still in order to do that.
So much better to do the maintenance.
So
than
what's
new.
the risk of, so option A is
Reform.
reform,
Reform.
putting in that lining.
Yeah.
Option B is wait till it fails to a point where it's got to be completely replaced. And where are we on that risk timeline to getting to the option 2?
Yep, so it's actually outlined in there. Let's see, what was that?
I saw the grading,
down a little bit.
I just didn't see.
So, and also one more thing, can we go back to this picture right here before we go down, stay at that map for a second? So, I think you also talked about section 1 is the pipe that is cracking along the top in the middle. And that's the one that also may need to be lined as well at some point, or is that, or braced?
There's a section of it that needs to be braced, yes. So there's two parts of it. The short-term recommendation is to, the braced one section of the pipe. And then where the sinkhole is at there is actually, the recommendation was actually kind of put a plate over it for now.
Yeah.
That way help with any load
And
going
distribution
over
of the
it.
weight.
We kind of came up with an alternative option. We wanted to wait till after this winter to see how, if there's still sinkhole forming or not. And that is just to go down and put some concrete in instead of putting a plate in over the winter time.
Sure.
So the immediate recommendation is what I just explained. And then it's telling us that with that in place, we could wait anywhere up to, 3 to 5 years to do that sleeving.
Okay, the sleeve being the 350, 400.
Yes.
But that's by putting like this concrete sort of a bridge over, place over it to diffuse to not have it collapse anymore.
Correct.
What did that
A
cost?
concrete Band-Aid, basically.
What was that cost? Step
Which
one.
part? Which one?
Concrete. and
Just the
bracing.
concrete?
Well, yeah,
That'd probably
the
be about-
bracing and plate.
Yeah, probably about 20,000, 20 to 30,000.
Doable. Yep. Okay.
So that's Center Street sinkhole. The next
You
one,
mean there's more? No, I'm
Yes.
kidding.
so as I'm at right now, Serenity Point, right, we started off, that's a cost shared responsibility.
Thank you, Jeff.
The High Street Boulevard, I'm still trying to discuss and figure that out. If that's gonna be a cost sharing or not. From my understanding, the High Street one would be a city responsibility only. Well, I just talked about Center Street. That one would be a cost sharing,
That would
be,
would
yes.
be.
The next two though would be just city only, which is Lexington Boulevard. So over at Lexington Boulevard, we have two metal culverts going underneath, side by side. They're about equal in size. It's been identified actually 4 years ago, some deterioration in those pipes. Not much has changed in the last 2 years from inspections, but it's recommended that we do get those sleeved and lined similar to North Center Street. Otherwise, we're looking at the same thing.
And we own
Full
that road,
replacement.
don't we?
We own that road now.
I got
Under
you.
the road.
I know,
Under
but
the road,
we
yeah.
own the road. It's
Which-
not, it's part of the sub, but we took the
You
great
can scroll down,
opportunity
you can
many
see the
years ago
pictures.
to own that
In
road.
Lexington Commons.
Yes,
Yeah.
we usually wouldn't
Yeah.
do that.
So the road itself, not many people realize, but in Lexington Commons where the condos are, the road itself, the boulevard is a city-owned street.
Mhm.
Everything branching off of that is actually privately owned.
Mhm.
The city took ownership of that street, I think in mid-90s.
Because the bus situation.
bus
Yes, I
situation.
understand.
But we couldn't help that there was water running under it. So, so the street is our responsibility, but with the water running under it
But it's a
is
street,
ours.
and then we also obtain right away as well. So it's
We
all
have the
within
street, we have the
It's all
culvert
around.
under
the
it, I
culvert.
believe.
Yes.
Keep going down. I
Yeah,
think.
keep going down.
It's a circular pump.
Yeah, just keep going. I'll tell you when to stop.
It might be in a third document.
Oh,
Yeah, this is the HRC one. It's in the OHM.
it's the OH.
We got the drift. We read them.
But it's 100% our responsibility.
Do you want me to jump on?
At this moment,
Yeah.
That's,
The
Yeah, I
OHM's
don't-
actually in the
I'll
packet.
just-
yeah.
So
And
if you go down to
and
page
similar
59.
And then the
it's in
last
same
one that's
packet.
on here, which is somewhat newer that we're working on with Jeff and his team is over at Mill Pond Court up there in the northern section. There's a culvert
Oh, up 8 Mile, right?
north of 8 Mile. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. There's the retention pond on the north side of the road,
That's it.
and then there's a culvert going underneath the south side, in which
That Abbey Knoll.
it looks like it's actually still, I think, part of Pheasant Hills.
Okay, at Pheasant
Um,
Hills and Abbey Knoll area. I got you.
Uh, There's a gas light right next to it, so that's how I know.
I know. That's another president. That's the next
Yeah,
one.
later.
There you go.
Yeah,
Keep going.
don't get ahead of
Sorry.
yourself.
So anyways, they've been working on that culvert for years, trying to help manage that pond over there. That pond's been impacting Novi residents. But as of late last week, discovered that that the bottom of that culvert is just collapsed and deteriorated. So that's something we're working on with them. But
And who's the share of responsibility?
from my understanding, it would be the city's responsibility only.
At this moment.
It
in
fall
time.
under the road jurisdiction.
Yes.
So, here is the Lexington, the two culverts there. You can see at the bottom, where it's, starting to rust. Once it get to a certain point, that pipe is going to, obviously the bottom's going to fall and then it's going to collapse. And then you're going to start seeing the material from the earth underneath fill in that area, and then nothing will be able to flow through. So, and then the road. So
the solution for these is to line both of them.
solution is to line them. We've been working with Jeff a little bit on these. As of, even though one project could be under the Drain Commission, they can still help us oversee this one and line them together where you have one contractor out, one unit prices, line Center, line Lexington. So we're still working on it. But like George said, we wanted to bring this to your guys' attention sooner than later.
Absolutely.
Since you guys already know about two of them, there's three more popped up.
And when there's a range on there like Lexington Boulevard, it's 330 to 1.2 million.
Yes.
330,000. So the 330,000 is
The lining.
the lining. If we wait, and there's additional failure, it's 1.2. So it's that same as scenario as you explained.
Yep.
On Center Street. Okay.
So. And like I said, I got Jeff here. His day, every day is drains. So he knows a little bit more about drains and culverts than I do. So if you got any questions for Jeff?
Great. So let me start. Appreciate all that Oakland County has done. I mean, the drain authority between Wayne County and Oakland County and everything we're doing on the Trinity Point, that's $750,000. I know we have others upstream of that. Again, we're trying to do all these maintenance that we haven't done up to this point. We're doing the cemeteries, we're doing other things around town, we're doing the roads and the pipes. Yes, it's time to do all these. I appreciate the support that we've gotten in the state. Rosemary Bear has given us some different funding and others because she's in charge of water management, in the Senate up there. And I appreciate everybody in Oakland County. I've been in contact with Mika Steele, who she's like the drain manager of Wayne County, I guess. I am having discussions with her about support of different things. So this is something we have to do. We just have to decide what's the cost sharing, but we thank you for everything. Kind of brought it to our attention. And I don't think some people in Wayne County knew it was a Wayne County, Oakland County Drain Authority at one time. So they all know now up there. But yeah, it's great to have 3-4 rivers come through here and be the front of all these things. It's a great opportunity to have the drainage for 4 counties come through here. So we appreciate everything you guys are doing. I think I was part of a meeting with all the drain authority in here too. So thank you. We thought this was like a twofer update, and all of a sudden the twofer went to a fourfer because we've had you've been involved in looking at some of these drains and the Romanesque one, but it's a great opportunity. We will get her done. We just have to find funding and support and how we do it. We have all these things going on at the same time, 5 or 6 major projects in the state of Michigan all here. If there was just this, Sandy would be very happy, but Sandy's growing money trees in the back so we can support all of them. So I don't have a direct question. Just wanted to thank you and your team. Make sure that they know I tried to talk to Oakland County, some of the drain authority people and others, but in Wayne County, I'm working with them. So from there. Go right ahead. Yeah, anything to add too. Come right up. Come right to the microphone. Let them know who we are because we have 20 or 25 people online and they can't hear you unless you
I'm Jeff
tell them.
Wilson, the Chief Engineer for Drain Maintenance at the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner's Office.
Great job.
So I'm managing the project, the Serenity Point project. These are a couple of other items that have popped up over the last few years. The big thing with the Center Street sinkhole is we do have a bit of a time frame on making the choice on the rehabilitation. But there is something in there about one of the segments where they had recommended a short-term fix to get us out that additional time. And we're still determining if that short-term fix is even feasible. There's a pipe jacking system proposed in there. And so if it's not feasible, it may accelerate these schedules because we don't want to risk the collapse of that area in there.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a moving picture on this whole thing. And then to kind of clarify the jurisdictional responsibility. So what's a cost share, what isn't? The difference is if something is a culvert, then it is under a road. It's the responsibility of a road agency to pay for. Whereas if something qualifies as an enclosure, which is, a culvert is essentially a short, open-ended, two-sided thing under a small run. These longer enclosures, the drain code defines them differently. They consider them to be part of the drain. So our office maintains the open channel and the enclosures, whereas the culverts are in this case, city assets. It could be a road commission asset if it were under a county road or an MDOT asset. Whoever owns it, or even driveway culverts.
So related question on that, and I don't know if this is for Mike or for Jeff. First off, thank you, Jeff. Mike has spoken very highly. I'll make the plug, 54% of our residents live in Oakland County, so appreciate it.
People don't realize that
Jeff.
the majority of our voters are in Oakland County. Okay.
With
I got
regard
that.
to High Street, I know we had conversations that, I know it's size-wise, it's right on the line or it's getting close in terms of bridge to culvert. And when we were looking at pricing for the grants, I believe we actually got to the point where it was almost priced as a bridge because of the size. So what is that process? Will it be technically even after the repairs? Will it still be considered a culvert at that stage? Or given the grant, given the work that's going to be done, is it going to actually become a bridge?
So I do not know that answer. It might be considered a culvert, but the size of it would fall under MDOT bridge requirement.
Okay.
Meaning we'd be added to our annual every 2-year bridge inspection. So we have 3 right now, but actually 2 of them are actually not bridges, they're actually just culverts. So, but the 1.2 estimate that we did have when we went towards was that full replacement.
Right.
Yes.
So I guess the question, and we don't have to necessarily get to an answer, because I know you said this is an active conversation, but is if it is going to be getting to that point where it is kind of on that line of a bridge, but if it's going to be classified from an MDOT standpoint as a bridge, does that change in terms of the partnership dynamic, or is it still treated as a culvert and therefore considered to be under the jurisdiction of the city?
Still under the city, the drain code defines bridges, culverts, and fords. That those exist much of anywhere anymore, but those all fall under the same category. The difference is more in the funding. Through Act 51 is something.
It's because we own the road above it. So if it was a Wayne County road that went across it or an Oakland County road, you would have more responsibility, would you not, on that?
If a culvert is owned by any road agency or even a private property owner, then they are responsible for the structural maintenance. of it.
Yeah.
Our office will still come out and jet those, clean them out, make sure flow goes through them. So they're built to a standard that will withstand that. And jetting operations, they involve hooking up to a fire hydrant and pressurized water, and they need to be able to withstand serious pressure to get them unplugged. But in terms of the actual structural maintenance, it falls back on the road owner or private drive owner, whatever it may be.
Thank you.
So just follow up to one of your questions is, so water runs under, I don't know what the term would be for where it is, runs under 8 Mile. Quite a bit, from that area of Lexington Commons, then going catty corner over to the Randolph area where it's exposed. So in that scenario, excluding the Randolph portion, which we owned, so if it, for any failure, for example, under 8 Mile, which we're unaware that there is, that would be Oakland County.
Theoretically above
Theoretically.
Taft.
So that,
Below Taft,
Yeah,
it would be Wayne County.
Correct, yeah. So
whoever the road owner is.
Right.
That's who's
that's what I
responsible.
meant.
Right,
It follows the ownership.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be a municipality, specifically City of Novi, it could be Oakland County itself,
Gotcha.
right? Or Wayne County if it
Right,
was someplace.
Right.
That's
Okay.
correct. Yep. Whoever owns that road.
Yeah, there's different
Wayne,
jurisdictions of
Oakland,
8 Mile.
MDOT, whoever.
Well, if we can call things a bridge, we're better off getting funding you look at a culvert, right? I mean, how many times the Riverwalk Task Force worked with the city to apply for funds for the High Street culvert? And it's like, it's just a culvert. Well, it's just as
People ain't know what the
expensive.
definition of a
So,
culvert is.
so we're on, if I look to the High Street culvert, just to punctuate that, the cost estimate is 1.2 million it needs full replacement. There's no, the time for repair has long passed, right?
I would actually say if we could scroll down to figure or picture 11, or let's see, yeah, pictures 11 and 12. It shows that
Oh, yeah, I'm
back
in
back
a
to the
different
conversations
document.
of these aren't optional projects. These are.
Well, that's
required
where I'm
infrastructure.
getting, so
Yeah.
what that means is we need to find what, $450,000 for that High Street culvert?
So this is where
Right, so,
keeping and, yeah.
so, and this is in, this is in, what is the technical term for what those photos show? In terms of the condition described? It's buried in here, I know.
What's
Just
the,
can't find, for the High Street culvert. So you know, that's poor, serious,
oh,
good. The
Well,
High Street culvert as it currently stands,
it's poor.
poor.
Yeah, and that's why the northbound eastern side sidewalk and portion of the road has been closed now for
Long time.
4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is.
Yep.
Yeah, I just, it's seldom when something comes before us, and I'm so grateful that you're both here and
Yeah.
briefing
And
us on this.
educating us on it.
That I am sick to my
Has to be done.
stomach, and it has nothing to do with what you're saying. It's with worry, right? And so, it's like, where does this money come from and what is the risk? So High Street is a big worry because our fire trucks go over there all the time. So this isn't like, oh, well, it's just a lightweight passenger cars. These I mean, they go down High Street, they go straight up, they're going to Ellen Terrace routinely. So heavy vehicles, but the other, so it's not on here, but we have the High Street sinkholes.
Mhm.
Which I know in the past, is it 3 years, we've had 2
Good.
major sinkholes just north of the bridge. And that little patch you had up there for Center Street
Yep.
is pale. I
Mhm.
mean, those were scary. I actually went and crawled to the edge because it was just when they were open and it was a long way down. We're just
I remember
lucky
That was
somebody,
ramifications of
we're
the
lucky
Randolph
somebody
drain.
did it. And there was a larger one and then another that was large, but not as large
Yep.
in terms of, and particularly the depth was, how many feet? I mean, it was,
That was over 9 feet deep.
yeah, it was, I mean, a vehicle or a person falling into that would be catastrophic. So what is the condition of that roadway? It's not mentioned here. Are we out of the woods on those
Well, those sinkholes,
sinkholes?
yeah, the difference with those sinkholes was the amount of water that was going through the pipe.
Right.
And then how the way the storm sewer is set up where it comes to the manhole and then it drops.
Yeah.
And then down into the stream.
Mhm.
What ended up happening is it hit the backside of the manhole and just blew a hole through it.
Yeah.
And that's where all the material just went down.
So has that been completely remedied?
Yes, we've
So,
had,
so we don't see it on here because that sinkhole
Because it's done
problem
as
was remedied
maintenance.
as appropriate, right? As you just described.
But-
Okay, I just wanted.
and it's hard to see in these pictures, but you'll see those pipes come into that area. So as part of that project, they wanted to be just a culvert bridge replacement. When we look at redoing the road, we'd be redoing most of the whole road itself.
North,
We'd be doing water main and everything
north and south or just north?
of High Street.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
As
no,
part
I'm
of the
thinking
future
we're
schedule,
across-
replacing the
Yeah.
pipes, we will redo that whole.
So north of
Any
Randolph.
of the utilities going through it or connecting to it, all will be replaced as part of the project.
So is this part of our overall water? Like, where does this in our bonding?
So we're working on that still.
Yep.
We're
Okay,
still
but
working.
that
on
working on the
could,
schedule
that could
of that.
potentially come under our bonding.
No,
Right.
just the water portion could, the water main portion, not the storm or the
Not
road
the
surface.
storm sewer.
Portion of the road service could, but
Right.
just where the water main actually go under.
Yeah.
You couldn't replace this whole thing with the water
No.
lines.
Gotcha.
Not yet. So.
Okay, well,
good
thank you,
But,
like
but,
that.
but you're right, when you mention it, it looks like a bridge. I wish it was a bridge. I do too. Better funding, everything.
It's like a bridge, quacks like a bridge.
It costs as much as a bridge, So
Well,
I
it's
agree.
it's just the way it's observed when we've tried to get, and thank goodness, we finally got 750 after how many tries?
Well, that's the other thing I
So-
wanted to point out is, Rural Hill Cemetery. They've been
Yeah.
working on trying to get that budget and replaced since before my time here. 2016 is the latest I know of. But I've been told by Nancy Darga and whatnot, it's been even farther out than that. So some of these bigger bridges, culvert crossings, it takes time to find the.
Time and energize the right people. Yes.
So is it, just a final inquiry, is that we need to, hopefully you'll give us guidance, because again, the pit of my stomach, so sooner than later, what is guidance on our next steps, short term, long term?
Exactly. That's why I wanted to say we're bringing the capital improvement program. We're going to look at all of our capital needs in the coming months, including the culverts and those things. So it's not quite the time to get something in the pit of your stomach at this point. I think we're going to have solutions over the coming 2 to 3 years.
We'll get her done.
But we have a lot of work to accomplish over 2 to 3 years, and we just have to be judicious with our use of
Well, and I
money
would,
and figure that out over time. But there is by no means a panic. But when we're discussing internally this new sinkhole, and you may see cones there and you might see the plate there, I want council to be aware that there is a challenge there and that it's going to cost some money, but we think we've got a good plan to keep an eye on it. And then we have to have a plan to fix it before too long. So we get it a $400,000 fix, not a $1.2 million fix.
oh, thank you.
Which is what we want. So I think we just got to keep these things all in mind, and we've got to look at this list, and we're going to come with certainly recommendations.
Well, the feeling in the pit of my stomach is not going to go away, but what it sounds like is I'll take some Pepto-Bismol till you got a plan back.
Please do.
Okay.
Other questions or any comments?
I think George addressed the questions I was gonna have. So we'll
Great.
just
I,
wait and see if this comes
just
in.
as just an example of keeping in mind that we have to invest in, instead of new projects, taking care of what we have. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, fixing these existing issues before we worry about our new expenses. So thank you.
One other item in terms of, something that we didn't really get into, but the drainage board, Randolph Street drain. So anything that's on the Randolph Street drain, whether it's a road agency culvert or if it's part of the drainage district's assets, improvements can be made on them, money can be borrowed. Whatever the apportionment is, you can cut that. So if something is 100% a city, that can be done through the apportionment process. Money can be borrowed up to 20, even 30 years, through bonding through the drainage district. So those tools are in the tool box. You can also contract with local agencies. So one entity can do the project, or the drainage board can appoint the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner's Office to manage the project. So there's certain tools that are available to the
Thank
city
you
as
so
well.
much.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
So at this point, is there anybody in the audience that has any comments? Going once, going twice? I'm closing this section off. Thank you very much. We know more about culverts and bridges and water management than we ever did. And we are going to continue with Rosemary Bear and others to get support like we've done. But we do have some opportunities on investing in the future, as Councilperson Janetti said. We are doing it all at the same time because the infrastructure has not been touched for many years. So we're doing it from roads to Ford Field to cemeteries to culverts. Good. So we are done with that. We're going to go to section 7, public hearings. We don't have none. Unfinished business. We finished it all. New business. Let's go to 9A, consideration of the reallocation
Ready.
of public improvement fund. This is Sandy. You want to give a preamble
just to
on that?
say,
It's
obviously-
probably straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. This is simply recommitting money within the Public Improvement Fund. As council knows, you've been moving along to purchase 2 pieces of property to have the farmer's market alongside the township with the township's assistance. And this is simply moving the money into the right commitment, so that council committed the money the first time. You've got to commit the money this time for us to be able to use it. So with that, certainly Sandy can.
And you're moving. Normally, this might have been on a consent agenda, but we wanted to make sure it was out there so everybody knows where we're moving some monies from and to. So
Yep.
it's
yep.
yours.
George just explained most of it pretty well. On the second page of your item in the packet, it shows the monies we have set aside in the public improvement fund. Most of it is allocated for specific projects. There are a few buckets of money that are unallocated to specific projects. And that is where we're looking to pull money from to fund the additional, we need 662,500 to buy this, our portion of the land.
And we're so fortunate we have a partner in this. Otherwise, this would be a tough one to do at this point in time. So we have a
Yes,
partner that's paying for half of everything, which is great with the township and for the community. So we'd be a little bit more excited, more money trees to grow.
So this is clearly just moving it from one bucket to
Okay.
another within this.
Got you.
fund.
And within the same fund.
Yep,
Correct.
same
Yep.
fund. You're just wanted to make sure you knew it. Will let us all know in the same fund from one area to another. John?
Only question I had was, in addition to the fees that are outlined, there was also conversion of the existing site at McDonald Ford. I think it was estimated at 90,500, had a 90 to 110, I think, range built into it. That's not called out here. Where will that be funded out of, or our portion of that be funded out of the general fund? Will we be coming back for that at a later date? Once
So we
the
don't have a-
numbers finalized?
We don't have a final decision on what we're spending. I think we have to have more discussion with the township on what it's going to take to get it ready to use in some format this year.
Yep.
Before we make a recommendation on that. But I've heard the number, I've seen that proposal for $100,000.
Right.
But I think we need to have more discussion.
Okay.
And just from my estimation, they did about $110,000 worth of engineering looking at it that they paid for. Yes, it's going to be $100,000. We think we can wait until our next year's budget until we really do that, or that is an option. You're not coming to that, to us today to ask for 50%
No, we
of
don't
that
have any final
90,000.
numbers.
Because we don't even know exactly what that'll be. And we could go into June or July for our next year's budget. And once we know that from the township, they've taken the lead on that. We appreciate that. They did the engineering on it, which helped us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and if that does come through for this fiscal year, it would probably just come to you as a budget
Right.
amendment.
Great,
Okay, thank you.
great. Any other questions on this? Good. Looking forward to getting forward on.
Yeah, and it's only just asking Sandy to just tell us and the audience, there's farmer's market environmental where we've, set aside 61,846, which still shows as there's a balance on that. So if you could describe what that is going to.
Yeah, that was set aside several years ago, back when we were, how many years ago did we start looking at this property?
About 4.5
4 years ago.
I'd say
And
4
we
years.
set aside $100,000.
I had
for
Dark Hair when we
environmental.
started.
So
over
we
there.
did start doing some environmental work, analysis several years ago. So that's what's remaining from that 100,000.
Good, thank you, because it was more than that. We drew it down. OHM did preliminary work. Now the
correct.
township chose to do additional work. Some of that additional work did need to be done.
Right.
And we would have Ben, we may have chosen to do it that way. Others, they chose like their design work and things like
Right.
that. We had already done that.
We'd already invested.
But they
some time and
chose for
energy.
their own comfort to do
Yep.
more. So we'll have to talk
Great.
through some of those, right? So.
Yeah, so if we
Excellent.
have to use that for environmental, we could, if, we need to use that for the
Well-
other costs to get it readied.
Yeah,
Or the
so
farmer's
it
market.
could change from potentially from farmer's market environmental to farmer's market preliminary site improvement.
Correct.
Right.
So
Correct,
we
could
could,
be.
I thank you for all your work for 4 years, not 2 years on this. It's been great. I know it goes by very quickly.
Bye, quick.
I know it does. Any other questions on this for the reallocation?
Pretty straightforward.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Stay right there. Anybody in the audience going once, going twice that has comments? Great, super. So with that, I think we need the motion today, don't we, to go forward? So I'm looking, you have a sample motion just to move the monies around in the same account. Do we have that motion on the floor?
I move that the Northville City Council reallocate committed fund balance in the Public Improvement Fund according to the attached schedule.
support.
Great. We have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? Great. Seeing none. I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Great. You have your motion approved. So let's go to B, under new business, consolidation of the request for rezoning of 557 Mile. This is the second reading tonight. It's all yours. Justin, tell us about this. I know
Well,
you've done it
this
before.
should be easy. It is
Yes.
the second reading and adoption. You did first reading on January 23rd. So if you make your motion to approve tonight, we'll do the legal notice in the newspaper and then change the zoning map. And then it actually becomes effective after it's posted in the newspaper for a number of days. So this will just get that process started.
Great. And this was a stipulation for the closing. That's why we didn't need it for our uses of that land, but understand, you explained that in more detail. last
Correct.
time. Okay, great. I don't have any questions on it. This is a 4-year process like the other one that we've been trying to get to a closing. We are almost there. We could close as early as tomorrow, but we will close sometime this month. The closing date has not been set up to my knowledge, but we had to go through this second reading before we did that. So thank you. Things will happen very quickly. The concept is to have the farmer's market there May 1st. So then we have to do the program management to work back from that. All the things you just talked about that we have to get ready for the farmer's market, the $90,000. So thank you. I know you've been absorbed with this tremendously too. Thank you for all your work on that. I don't have any questions for you. We asked them last time. We had a lot of public there, and I'll open up to the public in a second. If anybody else has any questions on it, I think we asked a lot of them before.
We asked him last time.
Yep.
Justin did a great job setting it up, so.
Yep.
Minor question, because we're at the finish line.
Yes.
So before we were
I
before
see
the
it.
finish
I see the
line,
line.
effective at the earliest date permissible by law, you just mentioned this, what that means, if I can paraphrase what you just told us, is that, make sure I understood it is, we need to publish it and then it's X days after publication. So what like is?
I think it's 10, I think the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act says 10 days after publication. So if you make this motion tonight, you've adopted and approved of the rezoning. So it is final. It just needs to be published
Right.
per the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act.
And so publishing it, we get it to them and then them publish it is
So they,
5 days, if you, is it a few days?
so it'll run next Thursday in the newspaper and then it would,
And then it's 10 days after that.
correct.
So this is before the end of February. It's
Correct.
effective.
Next
And we could
Thursday-
still
It'll be
close
in
before
12
that.
days,
Yeah.
right?
No, I don't think we can close
I
until the
believe we can.
effective date, can we?
I am
Oh,
told by
can
the
we?
different lawyers. Yes,
That's
sir.
why that's why I'm
Oh, yeah.
asking the question.
Where's Tony?
Okay.
You're shadowed.
Yes, so like Justin said, this is the actual approval, and so it'll be effective today. It's just a matter of process to get it implemented in those coming 10 days under state law. I still think that your vote this evening satisfies the final condition of the second amendment to the purchase agreement, and so I believe it could close as soon as tomorrow. Practically speaking, there's a couple steps you have to get lined up, and I don't think the township's there yet, but it can go through prior to that 10-day period is my thought on this.
And talking to Ernie, their legal counsel, he was under the same concept that we could close as quick as
Good,
tomorrow.
yeah.
And he knew all these things. They've been working
That
on
is
this
correct.
too, you know?
This is-
Yeah,
For the
Ernie
last
is the
couple years.
township council.
Yeah, that is correct.
And Tony Chubb is city council.
That is correct.
Is-
So
I mean,
they're
city
both
attorney.
in lockstep, and yes, it can be done tomorrow. We have to set the date. There's a couple just procedures has to happen, but our plan is to in
So
the very near term.
So that's why I was asking these, like,
Yes.
you know, where are we at?
You are
in that?
correct.
Okay, so the bottom line is, it's good news. And is there any other action by city council required other than this to, for fully executing the purchase agreement on the parcel of land?
On the township parcel, there is not.
We're done.
We're done.
Great. Thank you. Hang on. Is there anybody in council chambers? This is a open hearing again. We did it before. Second reading, going once. Thank you very much, all. Going twice. Okay, I'm closing the public hearing on that. So with that, you're looking for that motion. It's in our package. We heard it before. I'm looking for that motion here.
I'll give it a go.
Good.
I move to approve the second reading and adopt a zoning map amendment to rezone 557 Mile Road from GCD, General Commercial District with SMO 7 Mile South Main Street overlay to R1B First Density Residential to be effective at the earliest possible date or permissible date by applicable law.
All right, so we have a motion. I'm looking for support of that motion.
I'll support it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilperson Janetti. So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion on this motion? Great. I think we don't need a roll call vote on this. So I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Great. We have the motion. It's approved. Full speed ahead there, Justin. Thank you so much for all your work on that. Truly do. Now this, we're going to 9C, consideration of approving the Pheasant Hills street light proposal. I think I've been working on this since 2019 with you.
Yes.
Yep. So we are right there. And
Yep.
we've had so much information and you've come up with great alternatives and we're ready to go.
Yep, thanks, Mayor and Council. As Mayor just said, we've been working on this. I remember 2019, 2020.
Yep.
But the last time I was in front of you guys regarding this topic was in 2023.
Right.
And that was to discuss, obviously, the aging of these lights. It's time to phase them out. Consumers Energy no longer offering the streetlight program. They also, they think it's unsafe without meters at individual lights, and the alternative options that were presented out there. At that time, I presented the council, switch the energy source to DTE, hybrid, where we did some electrics, gas, and then who's going to maintain, be responsible for what part of those. Currently, throughout the city of Northville, city maintains and oversees all city streetlights that are in the city's right of way. It's a contract rental with DTE. We pay for the energy cost for it, and that's all. So if a light gets hit or a light bulb is burnt out, we call DT. They come out at no extra cost. It's part of our rental fee. They fix it. Besides Pheasant Hills is separate with being a gaslight district. So at that time we presented, it was a apples to apples, 52 poles for 52 new lights. You're talking over $300,000 project. Then what are we doing about the wall mounted gas lights? Recommendation was for them to take over it. Who's going to help maintain it? So what George and I did is we sat down from your guys' recommendation and met with HOA numerous of times and try to come up with the best outcome. What we came up to a solution was reducing the number of poles down from 52 poles to 19 poles. However, there's going to be 22 lamps because some of them have a couple more lamps than just one.
And the lighting is as good, if not better, because
It will
the
be better,
new,
yes.
new wave lights. Okay, right.
The DT was working with the HOA to pick out the light itself. It's still going to be similar to what we see throughout Northville. Same cost. The monthly cost is the exact same as well, the rental. Then the 12 wall mounted sconces that are gas, the HOA, they want to keep those and they want to keep them as gas. So what we have agreed on is that consumers in City of Northville will terminate their contract, and then the HOA of Pheasant Hills will enter a new contract with consumers. They'll pay for meters to be installed at each one of those locations. There's 12 wall sconces.
Right.
And then anything, those wall sconces, energy, fuel, maintenance, 100% covered by the HOA, no longer the city. So we look back and forth, we agreed on helping support on some of the maintenance of some of the older gas infrastructure, and looked at if we did an SAD, how much would that look like? How much time and money would that cost city staff every year having to audit? And we came to this recommendation, which is to pay for the replacement. The Pheasant Hills agreed to contribute to that replacement as well.
Great.
So instead of over $300,000 project, it's down to, with their contribute, a $70,000 project.
Great.
Within only a couple of years, we'll start seeing a savings to that program.
Great.
So as of right now, it's a little over 25,000 per year we pay for that fuel and energy and maintenance. The ongoing costs will be about a little over 5,000.
Because it's very efficient on the lighting and the
Yes.
whole bit.
Yep.
Great.
So it's something, an item that I've worked with the sustainability. We've been talking about it, the sustainability group, the amount of gas emissions that it's going to be reducing. These lights are lit 24/7. Most of these lights have been for over 20 years, lit for 24 hours, 7 days a week. When they weren't designed that way in the beginning, but that's how they've been. I am open to any questions you might have.
So this has been a great opportunity. It's great. I've heard positive things from all the HOA people. I think you and I have gone through 3 chair people or presidents of HOAs on this. They are very happy with this outcome. I am ecstatic, that they're taking over, the gas lights. So no, you didn't really explain why we got into this. Consumers had this big program and they did this. Consumers stopped the program. So that we had to go to a different level, and they've been working with us as we're going to the timing. So I appreciate you working with consumers and DTE we had out. Could we convert those gas lights to looks like it? This is the outcome that the HOA and the citizens wanted. They're pretty happy. I think it's a win-win for us. We're going to be saving in just a few years out there from what we're spending today. So great job, a lot of time, energy. A lot of love on this one.
Yes.
There you go. So that's all I have. Again, thank you, because we've been in a lot of meetings.
And I apologize, I didn't go over everything.
No,
but
that's good.
I
No,
did that back in
you
May.
didn't have to.
So,
Nope. I just want people to know, we didn't do this because we wanted to. There was no program left. So you've done a great job, a yeoman's job, working with all of our partners on this.
Yep.
And they're working directly now with the consumers and individual readers. Great. So thank you. There's a Reader's Digest of about a half-hour presentation you could have done on that background. Others? Great. It's a win. Go right ahead.
Nope, you can.
No,
Oh, I was just gonna, thank you, Mike, and to the HOA board. I know this was a tough process to work through, so.
it was.
Yeah.
They've been great to deal with.
oh yeah, they've been great to work with.
Yep, they really have.
Yeah, so yeah, this goes back, we first heard about this 5 years ago, so thank you. And for everybody's patience and really sticking to this and working through it. The HOA didn't ask for this change,
Right.
it was required. So the
That's correct.
city working with that HOA, but I'm trying to follow the motion.
Oh.
So, but maybe I'm not understanding. So the motion flowing from, your detailed analysis and budget impact and the recommendation is move that city council approve the attached purchase agreement with DTE in the amount of 80,000. So that's what we've agreed to pay DTE, right?
Yep.
For the installation of 22 new lights. When those 22 new lights, that is for a lighting conversion.
Yes.
Okay, because we use a different term in the next sentence, so that's where, so of the 22 new, should it be conversion lights, something to, because now let me get to the other part, and then the next part of it is, so it's the installation of 22 new lights, which has the same meaning as the lighting conversion in the next line I'm going to read, and attached contract with Pheasant Hills Association regarding lighting conversion and continued operation of certain gas lights.
Yes.
So
So the first one, I would keep it as installation because it's not a conversion, it's a full replacement. So it's just
Mhm.
installation.
So, and what is contract with Pheasant Hills homeowners regarding lighting conversion? Let's go with that one first.
Yep. So that contract for the lighting conversion, that's just the overall scope of work of what we're doing. We're removing the DT
Not
lights.
part of the motion though, right?
But yeah, it is part of the
Okay,
motion.
Yeah, it is. I'm
Okay,
reading
good.
from the motion.
Okay, I got
I'm
it.
trying to- And
pulling
continued
the motion, yeah.
operation of, is it remaining gas lights? Or,
Says and attachment C, which is the contract with Pheasant Hills
Right,
Homeowner Association. And that's what the contract is called. That's why I put it right there.
okay, it
Exactly
says
word
and
to word.
continued operation of certain gas lights.
Yes,
So is it the remaining gas lights?
yes, the remaining 12 gas lights that they're keeping.
Okay, so I think we should change certain to remaining because there's not any going to be left that are ours.
Yep.
Right? So, so remaining gas lights, the other part, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but if I go to the budget impact, PPHA has agreed to contribute 10,000 towards this project.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at the 80,000, is it, and help me, these documents were dense.
Yep.
So, and it wasn't search friendly. So, is part of that attachment C include their 10,000 contribution towards the 80,000?
It does not. So you could change your motion to remove 10,000 from it, but as right now, our contract with DTE is the full 80,000.
Yep.
Right,
That's
so-
why I asked.
Right, so it's the 80,000.
Yep.
But to be clear, the contract with Pheasant Hills
It's $10,000.
regard, and
Yep.
I think somehow that 10,000, the $10,000 offset
Mhm.
of the lighting conversion, right?
Right.
Which is what it is.
Yes.
So I agree, because we're paying the city and it's right. I mean, the city is paying DTE and then Pheasant Hills will pay the city.
Yes, that is.
So, contract with regarding, what would be a good term for that? Cause it isn't, the 10,000 aren't reflected.
Do you need that 10,000 in the motion?
I think we do.
Okay.
You think you do, or
Yeah.
the reason why I put it to approve the attach agreement, which the attach
Which is in
agreement
the agreement.
includes them contributing the 10,000.
Yeah, but you'd never know
Okay.
that it was the 10,000. So I think for the record, because we're not gonna have much on this.
The
in the
attached
minute- in the
agreement,
minute- In the minutes.
$10,000 you put in.
Yeah, so regarding their 10,000 contribution towards that lighting conversion. It isn't this,
Yep.
yeah. And continued and their continued operation of the remaining gas lights.
Yep.
Is that
Good,
right?
good
Okay.
enough, Tony? From
So
legal
do I
counsel.
want-
Yep, go right ahead.
Okay.
You better try it on because you have those in front. of you.
And help me, Tony, if
Yeah.
I misspeak, okay, in terms of.
And you have it on record on the recording too, don't you?
But before I read that, other people might have stuff to say.
Is there anybody else that would like to take a run at this, or everybody comfortable?
Pretty
Yep,
straightforward.
pretty straightforward. Anything, John? Nope. Okay, go right
No.
ahead.
I move that city council approves the attachment B purchase agreement with DTE in the amount of $80,947.65 for the installation of 22 new lights and the attached attachment C, contract with Pheasant Hills Homeowners Association regarding their $10,000 contribution to the lighting conversion, to that lighting conversion, and their continued operation of the remaining gas lights.
Comfortable, Tony?
Yeah, I think we need that final sentence.
Final sentence.
Oh, I further move
you-
to approve a budget amendment and authorize the DPW director to sign the agreements on behalf of the city.
Good.
Okay.
I feel comfortable. I have a motion. Do we have support for the motion?
Support.
Ooh, look at you guys. The buzzer went over there. So, okay, you almost got it. Got to be quicker, John. We have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion on this motion? I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. After 6 years almost.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Great.
Well done, Mike.
Great. You have a motion. Get that baby going now and get her done. Okay, so we added 9D. And I believe you probably have some changes in the notes.
Yeah, there was just one document. What I did to make it easier for you is anything I redlined, I put it in one list. So it was like just on a full page, but so
And
this.
you printed that up, didn't you? So
We
you
have it.
Okay,
Everybody
yep.
has. No, there was a one pager, so it was all on one page.
Okay,
You know what I mean? In addition to this, just to make a quick view.
Okay.
So these are not just scribble edits. There are things in there that are corrections. So,
Okay.
but there are things that are substantive. So
I have to ask, when you say they're corrections, I mean, our city clerk wrote this. They're your corrections or they're
well, no,
like,
I can point out where it's a correction. If it's a correction, it's a scribble edit. So any of us could just make a correction. So there are a couple places where it is a correction. So I
in
guess,
some places you just add because you didn't like the way the sentence.
no, it
read.
doesn't have to do with me not like, we can go through each one. So that's why what I.
so you're not
know-
changing the words that were
I am if
said.
it was, well, I can walk through this. This is more than we usually have. There's been a lot going on in the clerk's office and I suspect it was just,
You don't believe it was reflected correctly?
Well, things
well,
like
yeah,
public comment.
so this is where that other document I put together, what I did is for where I have these, because this is the copy that shows what the red line changes are. I'm suggesting.
I have it right here.
Yep.
Right. But yeah, so you have this. The other document I provided had it all in one place, what that change was. So it put that in there, but it also said why I was recommending it. So you're missing that. So let me go through. Because
Go right
I
ahead.
did submit that too, when I submitted both to make it easier,
Good.
but I can walk through each
Yep.
one to help.
No, I
Yep.
just wondered
I'm
if
comfortable with
like that's what
Well,
everybody's supposed to do.
Well, everybody's supposed to read them. If they see something that's incorrect, they give feedback
But
to the clerk.
incorrect, it's, a lot of this is like for like, let's say, public comment. If Michael Wright spoke on the bid process for the hot water heater to add his concern with, I don't understand why we do
Right,
that.
so the first, let's go first to the first change, which is above that, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
So that is just making it parallel. It was just omitted. It was omitted. Do you see how, like we have 9C new business? And then it was not, it was a cemetery task force. So when the clerk writes it, generally they're writing what was changed or removed there.
Right?
They did that for one and they didn't do it for the other change.
To your point, we can't change anything that was said. You're saying this is the way it was said
Well,
versus changing the words that
Well,
was
it was two. Not only was it said, but also for the context of what was done, there were two items mentioned as changed. Only one described it and the other one
Okay.
didn't. Does that make, so it's parallel. Now they both do it.
Okay, so let's roll through
So
it.
the next one, and that this is one that Laura, so this is an omission with a difference. So I'm completely comfortable that the clerk or deputy clerk just wrote a summary. I mean, the person said more than one sentence, and that's okay that we just put the one sentence in, right? But he spoke on the bid process undertaken, but generally when you write something, for example, if you look at Cindy Brazen's, which there's no change, spoke on reinstating the Zoom, right?
Mhm.
Well, spoke on the bid process. Well, it doesn't really encapsulate what that person said. They had a concern with the bid process. So I think in fairness and transparency to what that person said, that shouldn't have been omitted.
And in my
Unless
opinion, though,
somebody's,
we have everything on tape. I think we go in more detail than I've seen in just about every other area. I'm happy we've done this. We will
no,
continue.
well, I'm just saying, we have to be, if you want
We have it
to,
on
if you
tape,
want to
too.
take, well, putting it on tape, this is what, so
Yep.
in our 5 years.
Right.
And in your several years, or you know, so often minutes are referred back to, and I'm fine with their being short.
Okay.
But they have to reflect what went on so it can be referred back to. The answer in court isn't, well, let us give you a transcript
Yes.
of what happened in those minutes, right? And so the minutes in a very summary form need to be a fair and accurate summary of what transpired, right? And so if you want to take out that, that's fine. What caught my eye, and you'll notice it's rare that I see, it is rare, and maybe this is the only time I've suggested something on a public comment, but this relates to two public comments because Robert Buckhaves on the bottom, he spoke in concurrence with what Jim said. So, we could have summarized in one statement what Bob Buckhaves said, but we didn't. We referred it back to Jim's, and Jim didn't have
I got you.
that concern with.
Okay.
So we didn't rewrite, we didn't put down what Bob said because he said more than I just concur. So that's why in this case, and I think it's the first time ever, Laura, where I've suggested from a transparent what was said that needs to do it. But I am fine with that one if somebody wants to remove that change. Does
No,
that-
I'm just curious. I was just
Okay.
I'm
curious.
fine
of
with
this
these
process.
changes, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to go through, if anybody has any
Well,
differences. I don't
but-
think you have to explain to everyone.
Well, no, but sometimes like just to go to page 2, okay, just to clarify, you'll see red there. That's not my red. That red was in the original. So there's some red words that were there originally.
The crossed off red?
No, it was the way you see consideration of approving the following consent
Yep.
agenda, CN. Everything there, what was crossed out and the move to new business
Okay,
item C,
got
that
you.
was exactly, that's
Okay.
not me changing.
Okay,
That was how it was read and it was crossed out.
okay.
In the particular one is that I highlighted some key areas of focus for the going forward, but So I added what things I was putting, others could have expanded too, but this is what I said because it was supporting what they said. And just highlighting some things that I said versus I wasn't adding anything new. So I was highlighting. So that's why I added that, but that just affects just reflecting a summary of what I said.
I support it.
Okay. And the downtown parking study, the next is on the top, page 3. This is a correction. It said sustainability presentation was removed from the agenda. It's cemetery task force
Okay,
presentation.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
And again, it looks weird because it was crossed out originally, so the red is the change.
I got
in
it.
that one. But the remove
Good.
from agenda was already red in the
Okay.
one you received.
Yes.
The next is, there were 2 parts to this. One, as summarized, it did not correctly characterize what I said. Because it said that it was written that, that what I said was it would be beneficial to expand the scope of the study into other parts of the year, not just peak times in the summer. That isn't what I said. In fact, what I said is, this is only for peak season. Yeah, it would have been nice to have it for non-peak to see like in the colder months, but I support the decision they made. They needed to make that decision. So I needed it to correct that. The other is, of course, council as a group made a decision to accept this as a draft report. It was recommended to accept it as a final. So, and we've already gotten questions on that. And so that was sort of lost in everything. So I can only touch what I wrote to as a basis for that. And so that's what was added because we took an unusual action of not accepting something as a final report. And then the other was related to council's decision that it should only be accepted as a draft. So it was too many holes to fill in, if you see where that is.
Towards the bottom
Or
of
as
page
submitted.
3.
So that's just
Okay,
clarifying words so
Okay.
people can pick this up and understand.
no problem.
And then,
You have
so
page-
that's what that's about. And also that city council agreed that 2 members would
Yep.
meet with them in person.
Right.
Right? And
Yep.
that John Forster preferred that versus John Forster getting all of our written feedback.
I don't know if he,
No,
I don't think, I think that's incorrect.
I do.
No, I
too.
asked him, he was.
No,
You
you
said
told
we
him.
could sit
I
down
don't
for
think he
2
agreed.
hours.
I don't think he agreed. He agreed to meet with us. I think I asked him,
It
my
doesn't-
recollection said I asked him, would you meet with them? And he didn't say that would be the preferable.
No, but after that, I then said, would you prefer an in-person, I think I used the term iterative process or notes? And he said.
No, you said I don't want to type for 3 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd rather have a conversation.
So that's what I remember. Fine, I am fine with that.
And I'm
but
fine with
I
it 'cause he
remember asking
agreed.
that question.
To your request,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep, absolutely. He did agree and the.
Well, do you want to
Too.
edit what I've suggested then?
Nope.
I'm fine with that. You want to edit?
No, I am fine with what you
And then
have
the
there.
last thing, I think the person's unknown name was Corey McPherson.
Oh, that's what I wondered. I had
Was
a-
it? Thank you.
Mhm.
Yep. Corey McPherson. We probably didn't have it on a write-in or something. I
And
can't
again, I
remember.
didn't.
Jesse Poole's husband.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
That's right.
again, on that one, Lord,
He
the
didn't
point
say
is
his name,
that
but we must have missed it.
it was an audible comment. We just didn't know who it was. It was not an audible comment. So, so we can change that to Corey McPherson.
It is inaudible if I can't hear it on the recording.
Okay, good.
So then how did we get that? It noted that the data from the parking study is incomplete. So it says that
Saying what you corrected, what said inaudible, so that I can hear.
Oh, you couldn't hear it.
Say it into the microphone. If I can't hear it, it is not. audible.
And that's what you heard.
He might have said it like
Oh.
as he's
Right,
walking
so
up.
it's
and then when he
not
got
like
to
you
the
left it
mic.
on purpose. You just couldn't hear his name.
Yeah.
And we probably didn't have a sign in that night. I got you.
Oh, I misinterpreted the way it was written. I thought,
Yeah, he couldn't hear it on the recording. I'm fine to put his name in so it knows in the final
Okay.
record, but
I'd agree.
it was unaudible.
so from what I suggested,
the
it
name.
would change to Corey, is it McPherson?
McPherson. yeah.
McPherson.
Get that name too.
And then go right to noted that. Does that make right?
Mhm. Yes. noted that the data, blah, blah, blah.
Is that,
Yep.
is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. Is that the last?
Mhm.
Good. So I have no problem with any of those updates, and I'm fine if you give that to them and just say, as noted, and then we are all, if you give that to us, we'll get it before the meeting too.
I did get it.
I know.
Oh, no, I got it to them before the
I know,
meeting.
we were just a little bit rushed tonight on that, so we didn't get that. You
So,
didn't see it
but
on
I
yours,
did-
I didn't see it.
So I will, and Evan knows this. So, Mike sent those late Friday. Generally, Mike sends them like Wednesday or Thursday. And the reason he does that is because we get the council packet Friday night, right? And then focuses on that. So in this case, we didn't get it till late Friday. I wasn't able to look at them till today. And so this morning, and so I called in very early afternoon to let Evan know, because Mike had said, let Evan know if anybody has got, that this was going to be coming.
Sure.
But it wouldn't be till later in the afternoon, so I sent it. So I gave him a heads up. So, and I apologize, there was just no way from
Nope.
late Friday to then.
Timing is
get to
everything.
it.
So we have these changes. I'm looking for a motion to accept these changes. Do I have that motion on the table?
So moved.
Okay, do I have support of changing the motion?
I'll support it.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we can do this. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? So we weren't against any of those, but just.
Yeah,
We're.
and It's been a long time. It's just that I've had anything.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, we are going to, what was it, mayor and council communications, and I'll go back to you. From my standpoint, I thought I had some scribbles here sometime. Again, I thank all the task forces. They're doing tremendous jobs, as we saw tonight, on the cemetery and the other activities. We have 7% of almost all of our citizens involved. That's why we can do all this stuff. So I thank all those that are giving their time and talents out there. Second, just before we meet next time, I think we have right after that, we have the chili in the Ville. So start thinking about that. We're trying to make it like a mini festival. It's getting a little better every year. So look at that, 2/22. We have the 6th. We have the chamber event. If anybody's going, if you haven't RSVP'd, we have room at the table. We bought a table. So if you're going, some of you have done that. If you're around the night of the 6th, at a little place called Genetti's for the dinner, and then we go across to the theater. Do talk to Michelle. Last, the Declan dance and activity on St. Patty's Day. If you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Brian. So, if for those that are online, do want to announce a little bit of a save the date, the evening of March 15th. Declan's Dance will be a St. Patrick's Day celebration at the Marquee Theater. We'll have a couple of bands featured, including the Sean Riley Band, as well as Irish dancers. It's the first event of the Declan Carter Foundation. So I want to make a special thank you to Sean Riley, Brandon Buter from the Marquee. And then also note that 100% of the ticket sales and any donations that evening will be going to the Ford Field Playground. So good opportunity for us to come together, celebrate, and raise money for a great cause here in the community.
Great. And that will go in my newsletter as of tomorrow. So it's just kind of a free deal, and then we'll get more information the whole bit.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Only other update I was going to give is February 13th, we will be having, so I know everybody heard about Bicentennial and the Cemetery Task Force. The Bicentennial Task Force will be getting together on February 13th. If you are interested in getting involved, we will be here at City Hall. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions.
And I hear that the cemetery restoration might change the date.
Yeah, we have a
March,
few
is that
core
correct?
team that are not going to be in time.
Okay, great.
So we're working through it, but we might not have a February session.
Just let me know for sure, because I'll
we'll
put
do.
that in the newsletter.
I think actually David Merrill texted me something, so I'll.
Okay,
update you
great.
quickly.
Let me know tomorrow, because that's go time. Thank
Sure.
you. Anybody else?
Just quickly, Northville High School Varsity Dance Company is at the Northville High School on Friday night. So if you're looking to support one of the local teams, do that. I just want to thank a few people who got us to this point on the Farmers Market Task Force. Some of them have put in thousands of hours of their life.
I did.
Nancy Nargis, Susan Hafley, Kathy Spillane, Lisa Schoen, David Merrill, Jennifer Lukert, Ann Turnbull. Do you know Ann?
I know Ann Turnbull. I lived with her last time I looked.
Goldwyn,
Yep.
Keith Kohler, Sylvester Dooling, Doug Wallace, Marilyn Price, Mark Abbo, and Brian, and everything that you've done.
no
This
problem.
is 5 years in the making. And it's going to be absolutely phenomenal once we get it.
Be outstanding. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you for what you've done too.
We appreciate it. It wouldn't be where it's at if it wasn't for your leadership, and we're getting there slowly but surely, and we're almost there. Anybody else?
No, I just there was a lot on the consent agenda. Thank you for mentioning Chili in the Ville.
Yep.
But also, I looked over where we approved the art fair special event that we have annually.
We did.
And when I looked it over, it's going to be big.
Pretty-
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty
I
good.
mean, we're back. I mean, not only are we back to pre-COVID, but it's
It is.
bigger. I mean, it's like 200.
It's in your package, a lot more detailed than it was before.
And, you know, with expanded streets that it'll be on. So I'm really looking forward to that event, and we did approve it, approve the layout and everything, and the dates.
Great. So I'm looking for a motion for adjournment. Do we have that motion?
So moved.
We have a second. Support. No other discussion. There will not be. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, boom. We are done.